Hello, I'm Refashionista Sheri, and welcome to the Confessions of a Refashionista podcast. Today, my lovelies, we have a most awesomely amazing guest, and she is my fellow Gen X contestant from Battle of the Generations, episode 6. And of course, I shall link her episode down below so you can all go enjoy it as much as I did. And her name is the wonderful, lovely, talented Rita. Hello, Rita.
Hello. Thank you. Wow, that was quite the introduction. Thank you.
So, Rita, tell us all, how the heck did you get on Battle of the Generations?
Well, you know what was so interesting is I saw a Google headline one day that said CTV's casting for trivia show, and I saved it. I thought, oh, that's fun. And so I just saved it. I didn't have time to go into it or anything, but I love trivia, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to it. And then one day, and also I have had a bucket list since before bucket lists were bucket lists, like since 1996. And it just keeps, it's very fluid. No, really, I read this book. It's by Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, and it's called, well, come back to me what it's called. And in the book, he says, make a list of 100 things that you want, be as crazy as you want to be, but do not continue reading this book until you've made your list. It took me weeks and weeks to come up with 100 things. Number one thing was to meet Bruce Springsteen. That was number one. And it took me 20 years, but I did it. It took me 20 years, but I did it. Yeah. And 163 was to be on a game show. And
you did that.
And I did that. Yeah. And so anyway, I applied. One day I had some time, so I applied for the show, and I had such a blast just doing the audition, like just filling out the information, and
in the little video.
Totally. And I did it on the CTV app. So it was poor quality. It was, I didn't even get to save it, but I knew that I nailed it because I was definitely on my game that day. So I sent it in, and I wasn't attached to any of it. Didn't even really care. Literally, I sent the application in at like 6:00 in the evening. And the very next day at 11:00 in the morning, I got a call from their casting people, and I didn't even believe it was them. I was like, there's no way you're calling me this early, but they did. And so I had my audition and then nailed that too. I was so excited. But then didn't hear anything. So had just like completely given up. Yeah. And actually I didn't even give up. I just wasn't attached to it. So I didn't even think about it.
It was just gone.
Totally. And then I came back to home after being with my family over Christmas, and got a phone call on December 28th asking me if I would be on the show. I was in the shower, and I come out and I listen to the message, and it's a producer saying, we'd love to talk to you about next steps for the show. And I'm like, next steps for the show? There's next steps for the show. And so yeah, it was. And then of course the hardest part was not being able to tell anyone, as you know.
I know. Yes. But, I guess it was even harder for you. Like, I'm in Toronto. I literally took a bus downtown, although I did get to stay in the fancy hotel. But for you, they flew you in.
They did. They did. You know what was so funny is that, Toronto is not a place that I visit. Like it's a place I've flown through. And I do have friends there, but it's not, I live on the West Coast. It was 14 degrees the day I flew out, and it was minus 24 when I landed in Toronto. So that is not something that anyone does voluntarily. No, and no one asked me why I was going. That was the funniest part. I tried not to post too many things that I was at the airport or because I knew people would ask.
Yeah.
And also everyone knew that I was like really being careful around COVID and everything. So I wasn't traveling. I wasn't doing those things. And then here I am going to Toronto. I wasn't even in Toronto long enough to get jet lagged. Like it was like I turned around and came home, and I was, like I literally flew out at, I think it was 10:30 in the morning on the Friday, and I was home by 7 p.m. on the Sunday. Like, it was crazy. Yeah. But it was such a fun whirlwind.
Did you shoot in the morning?
We shot all day in the afternoon on the Saturday. Like we got there in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we were there all day. It was like a 9 or 10 hour day. Yeah.
Yes. It was a very
Yeah.
long day.
It was a very long day, but it was so fun. Oh my gosh, it was so fun.
Yeah, it was. Did you have, like, I have insane social anxiety. Like it's beyond the beyonds. And even on the show, and they kept that part in where I was doing my anxiety.
I did see a few faces that you made that, yes.
Yes.
I didn't realize
Yes.
that's what that was.
That's what it is. Like tense everything up and then you release it and some of the anxiety goes. Yeah. How were you feeling during the show?
Oh my God.
Like as soon as you got to the podium there.
I was so excited. Like it was so funny. I have social anxiety in terms of like now, since COVID and everything. I don't like to be in large groups of people, like, concerts and things like that. But I was so 100% present for this experience. I couldn't stop smiling. My face hurt by the end of the day so bad. My cheekbones were sore. And I wasn't nervous. I had studied a lot. And of course, if you see the show, like you'll see how I did. But it really is true what they say that when you're sitting at home on your couch, it's so much easier. It's so much easier. And I literally had studied every possible BuzzFeed generation focused quiz.
So did I. So I was all over online doing all these quizzes.
Oh yeah. Hours a day I was doing that.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't nervous. I had the best time. Literally, I was so present in every moment that there was no time to be nervous.
Yeah. My brain was at everyone else's questions. My brain was like, yes, there, I know. And then when it came to mine, blank, but I got there in the end. So
you did get there. Yes, you did. Yeah.
Very, very happy to say that.
Yeah. So great.
After the show and everything, I mean, this was a fun, wonderful thing, but we want to know more about Rita. What is it that Rita does now?
Well, before and after the show. So I've been in school. I've been a student for the last almost 2 years, completing my professional counseling program, which I just did on Friday. It is the last day on Friday of my practicum. Yay! And I never would have thought that would have even happened. It wasn't something that was even remotely something I would have thought I would do, is go back to school after, working for 26 years with the same institution. And yet that's what I did. And so I'm a certified life coach. I do career counseling, career coaching. I specifically work with people who are being bullied in the workplace or who are looking to transition out of toxic work environments. Yeah. I advocate for safer work environments. I lead workshops on bullying in the workplace. And I mean, my own personal experience led me to being bullied in the workplace, led me to counseling. And then counseling made such a world of difference for me that it just seemed like a natural fit. And I can't tell you how fulfilling it is for me to do this work. It's a privilege to be able to sit with people when they're going through their stuff. And I love it so much. It makes me so happy to be able to say that that's what I do now.
So is there any kind of tips or advice you can, just off the top of your head now, that you could give someone, just general advice if they are experiencing, not just like in the workplace, but just in general, experiencing bullying, from other adults? I mean, as adults, we kind of think this shouldn't be happening to me. This is weird. I'm not in grade 7 or grade 10 or even grade 12 anymore. What the heck's going on? And I know for myself, when it's happened to me as an adult, it's really like, what? Your brain doesn't really compute what's going on. And you absolutely internalize it. Okay, I did something. Because you can't imagine that somebody who is, 10, 20, sometimes 30 years older than you, or even your same age, would be doing this. So what would be first steps in that situation when you feel that this really is happening?
Well, in some cases, it's people who are younger than you, who are trying to assert themselves and, so I didn't know it was happening to me. I had no idea that's what that was. And it happened for 3.5 years. And it took me 3 years really to recognize what it was. Like really, because I internalized it. I kept thinking I was the problem. I needed to fix it. I needed to make myself better. I needed to communicate better. Maybe I needed to learn something new. And so I kept taking courses and trying to figure myself out until it dawned on me that maybe I'm not the problem. And, and I was in an environment where it was, what is that word? You know, where they know it's happening, but they ignore it. What is that? They tolerate it.
Oh, yes.
Yes, very tolerated, that behavior. So in my case, actually speaking it out loud, because there's a lot of shame that goes with it. There's a lot of, I'm 100%, a grown-ass adult and I'm being bullied. I think I was bullied like twice in my childhood by classmates or whatever. What I learned later was that I actually had been bullied in different ways my whole life. And so it was a trauma response just to freeze and to kind of try and make it better for myself and think that I
take it into yourself that it's your fault. Yeah.
But what I have come to discover in the research that I've done for the workshops that I've done now and is there are so many different forms of bullying. There's covert bullying. There's the overt bullying, which we know. There's gaslighting. There's micromanaging. There's so many different kinds. And what I have come to discover after a lot of conversations with people is that anything that makes you feel smaller, anytime anyone says anything that makes you feel smaller and you know, in your gut, you know it was intentional, that is a form of bullying. So for me, what I want to do is I want to take all the capital letters out of the word bullying and normalize it, right? Because right now it's like, oh, don't use that word bullying. Oh, no, you want to be careful. No, you don't. You want to call it out.
I never understood that. Why? Why can't we feel free to call people out on their crap? Yeah. I mean, really.
Because it's a big deal. If people start calling people out on it, they'll have to do something about it. So it's easier to not do anything, to tolerate it, to ignore it, to pretend like it's not happening. And, oh, you must be the problem, right? It's hard to keep hiring for positions where people are qualified enough that they're going to actually empower their employees. And, you know, it's so me personally now, what I would say is tell someone, ask someone, do you think that I'm being bullied? If you're not sure, just ask someone, call me. Like, honestly, for me, it's like, this is a mission for me to, I don't know what it looks like exactly, but I feel very passionate about this topic and creating safer. Nobody needs to be laying in their bed on a Sunday night worried about going to work on Monday. Yeah. Because it will chip away at you. If it's happened to you, you know, it will chip away at you. It will take your spirit and crush it. And I don't want that to happen to people. What I went through, I would never want anyone to go through that.
Yeah. And you really do feel like you are the crazy one, especially when there are so many people in that office or workplace or school or whatever situation it is that are enabling the people doing the bullying, not just tolerating it, but enabling it, right? That's exactly
right. And I think people are afraid. And I just actually recently sat in on a webinar on the bystander effect and, different things that we can do because really what we're doing is we're allowing it to continue. If we're watching it happen and we know it's happening to someone, we're also part of I don't want to say part of the problem, but because we're all so afraid for our jobs. It's all battle of the fittest. Yeah. Like survival, right? And if we all actually stood up and said something, it might make a difference.
Oh, I think it definitely would make a difference. Yeah. I mean, and especially if it's people from all different kind of age groups and walks of life within that same company. You know, it can't just be, okay, here's all of the 50 plus ladies that got together, because then again, it's tolerated, it's enabled. Oh, come on. They're just being Karens, right?
That's right.
Which is insane, but
yeah. And as grownups, we don't think it's happening. We don't think it could happen to us.
Yeah.
But it's actually what I'm discovering in my research. It's rampant.
Mm-hmm. And again, I don't think it's just something that happens, as you said, to older people. I mean, it can happen to every age group, everybody. If you're a new person, if you have worked at the company for years, it's not something that's new, but it is something that sadly has been tolerated for way too long. So
way too long.
It's fabulous that you are now there.
Mm-hmm.
And this is now your mission in life, to help people, because I don't really think there was something or is something accessible like this to people. I mean, you go to HR, but HR is there for the company. They're not there to help you. But now you are.
Now I am.
That's a wonderful thing.
My dream, and I don't think it's that unrealistic, is that every organization have some type of wellness counselor on staff that is there for the employees, that is specifically for the employees to go and talk to, because people used to say to me all the time, that everybody hates HR, right? I was like, no, that's impossible. I was like over here living on a cloud, working in HR, thinking I get to help people. I get to do things no, you don't. No, you don't. Yes, you can talk to them. Yes, you can listen. Yes, you can totally encourage them and do all those things, which I do and did, and then got in trouble for, because it's not my job. It's not your role. You're stepping on toes. It's, it's like, and then it becomes one of those things where you have to do it in secret.
Yeah.
Now I don't have to do it in secret.
The job you thought you had was actually the complete opposite, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But again, it's wonderful. You have taken all of that and mushed it all up together and are now throwing it out into the world in a very, very positive way. And that's just making my heart happy.
I'm actually vibrating as you're talking. I'm just like, my whole body is vibrating because I get very passionate and fired up about this topic. And, there's people take their own lives when they're being bullied and no one can help them and they don't know what to do. And it happened recently in Montreal. Someone who worked for the city took her own life. And it enraged me when I read that article. Enraged me. That should not be happening. That could have been me. But I'll be honest, it could have been me. And, I'm just grateful that I got through to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, and that took so much strength and will from your own self, right? And something that I think may have helped you is something that you did a few years ago when you decided to do a bit of world traveling and go around hugging people.
Yeah, in 2011, it was when, it's so funny because, you think of Gen Z listening to this and they're like, what? There was a time when cell phones didn't exist? Yes, there was a time that cell phones didn't exist. But when smartphones first came out, when iPhone came out with their first phone, I would notice downtown and stuff, I would notice that people were just on their phones. People waiting for their lunches, they're just on their phones. And no one was talking to each other. And so I started to kind of think about it. This isn't okay. Like, is this the word? This is not okay. And so I read a blog post that a friend of mine had written that said that she wanted to hug more. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to expand on that. And I'm going to connect with at least one person every single day, one-on-one. And I'm going to hug them. And I'm going to take a picture and I'm going to post it to Facebook. And I'm going to share the story of who they are and how I met them. And,
Very
I started
cool.
doing that every day. And it was so uncomfortable. And I made my own rule that it couldn't be someone that I knew. Like I had to stretch myself. I'd save the people that I knew for the days when I didn't have time or, something.
Right.
And so I would meet people in the grocery store, the cashiers, it didn't matter. And then people started to hear about it. It got on the news. It got in the paper. It pretty much went viral, I guess, in those days. That's what it would be called. I interviewed with Jan Arden on CBC Radio. Jan Arden's show called me. I'm like,
cool.
I used to work in radio and I used to play Jan Arden and I've seen her in concert 1,000 times and she's interviewing me. What is happening to this world? And so
just,
it was,
how would this work? So you're standing in the line at the supermarket.
sure.
You just start chatting to someone and then say, "Hey, do you need a hug?" Like, how did this work?
What I would say is, I would chat with them and connect with them and just, and then I would always say the same thing. So one of the things that I've noticed that's missing in the world is connection. Now that smartphones are, we're technologically more advanced and we have ability to connect, but people aren't connecting as much in person. And so I'm hugging people. I'm connecting with people and hugging them and taking a picture. Would you mind? And oh my God, people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. I don't think I ever had I had one person say no. So I hugged like 5 different countries for an entire year, 365 days. I hugged at least one person. And I had one person flat out say no. And I was like, that's okay. That's no problem. And that's weird, she said to me. And I remember like just sending her lots of love because the fact that she thought that was weird. And then what happened is when I was leaving the store that I was in shopping, she said, well, maybe. And I said, you know what? It's okay. If it's not your natural inclination, it's okay. And someone in the store had heard me. So she offered to hug. She said, can I be your hug today? And so, yeah. And then it got to the point where people would tap me on the shoulder, like at the grocery store. Hey, it's the hug lady. Are you still hugging people? And so it just kind of took on a life of its own. I started getting invited to events to come and hug people. Daycare centers would bring their kids to me so I could hug them. That was the sweetest. Of course, they had to have permission from all their parents, of course,
yes,
right? But
yes.
and still every once in a while, it still happens where someone's like, hey, aren't you the hug lady? But you know what the coolest part was? I think the coolest part was that I created this Facebook page where I posted all these pictures and people would love to see themselves, like to hear,
of course,
be seen. And it all comes down to like, we all just want to be seen and heard.
Mm-hmm.
Like fundamentally, that's what we want as human beings. And now I get to do that. I'm actually getting paid to do that. Seeing and hearing people.
You're just such an amazing inspiration of positivity and just like warmth. It just radiates off of you,
Thank you.
And it's just such a, when I see you on social media and you have such a wonderful way about you. And I just love listening. It's really,
so
really,
kind.
It's just so
Thank
soothing.
you for saying that.
And I can so imagine that you are incredibly helpful to the people who need your help because you're such an active listener as well. Like talking to you, I know you're hearing me. You're not just going, yeah. It's everything is getting internalized and you are taking it in and just wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you. That's so kind. What makes me think of is, I said this the other day to my mentor, my coaching mentor. I said to her, I think what's happened is I have become the person that I needed.
Great. That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I always think with my kiddo is that I am being now the mom that I always wanted. And she thinks I'm an incredible weirdo most of the time. But I think as long as I'm making her laugh and we're having fun and she's learning things, that's what's important, And there's not any meanness going on. That's kind of the best part.
And she's free to be herself. I mean,
100%,
that's such a gift, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, it is very true as we get to different stages in our lives, like when I was 20, I was still kind of trapped in that thinking that you have to stay with your family and all of this kind of stuff. And it's sad that it takes us so long to kind of open our eyes. But I think we need to have these life experiences and go through them, even though they are traumatic. But once you get to the other sides, you become who you always wanted yourself to be, as you said, who you needed yourself to be at certain times in your life. And again, it's wonderful now that not only are you doing that for yourself, but you're doing that for other people. And that's so special. So special.
I've never been more fulfilled working ever.
Yeah.
Except when I worked at the Olympics. I mean, that's different. That was just, but this is like my job now. And I will never take it for granted because it is such an honor that people trust me and share some of their deepest, darkest thoughts with me at times.
Yeah.
And their excitement. And I get to acknowledge them and celebrate them with their victories. And oh my God, it's the best.
Yeah. So if anybody is wanting to chat to the wonderful Rita, all of her links will be in the show notes or down below if you're watching this on YouTube and seeing our lovely Gen X faces. But you know what? I think that's our time for now, but I would love to have you back again, and we will get more in deep and maybe peel back some other layers that can hopefully help some people out. And if anybody has any questions for Rita, please do let us know. And when she comes back, she will answer them for you. But thank you so much for being here and sharing your wonderful wisdom.
Yeah. And congratulations on winning some money on the show. You. Yeah, that was like, I wanted to win some money so I could pay my tuition. And, I didn't, but I'm so happy for you that you did.
Yeah, well, I could pay my rent and bills.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. All right, guys, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag. Thank you so much again for being here, Rita.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.